Thank you, President. And I would just like to rise to make a small contribution to the Melbourne Strategic Assessment Environment Mitigation Levy Bill. This bill effectively is trying to legislate what has been practice and policy for the last decade or so using the old Melbourne Strategic Assessment. And that was something that was done conjunctly with the Commonwealth and with the state. And for the most part, people think that it has been operating relatively well. I don't think it's probably has been operating as well as people had expected. And it seems the legislation may well sort of firm up some of the expectations of that levy and also ensure the future of it. There's been a lot of areas where it hasn't lived up to the promised grassland reserves that it said it would, but it does, I believe, provide some certainty through legislation for a network of large conservation areas. I know there'll be some questions in the committee during committee, and I will add to that. But given what has been happening over summer, and given that 170 odd rare species have lost 50% of the habitat, 50% of their homes, I think anything that we can do that will make a contribution to extinguishing or reducing extinction rates must be done. And I have got concerns, and I will raise them, around some of the really important areas in the north, and a number of my constituents in the north have raised their concerns about committing and ensuring that some of those very important woodland areas of the north are protected. But again, the Western Grassland Reserve, as well as the Grassy Eucalypt Woodland Reserve, though I've listened to Mr Hayes there saying that it wasn't adequate, I think it did protect 36 areas of high biodiversity, and it did provide some conservation actions for things like the southern brown bandicoot. Having been someone who's grown up in the ACT, where the notion of green pathways for our habitat was crucial to the development of that city and to the planning of that city, I understand that this is, again, will provide some of those habitat corridors that in this very fast growth period that Melbourne is, has been experiencing for quite some time and continues to experience. I think it is incredibly important that we work to protect those pathways, work to protect those corridors, to ensure that we don't find our habitat being captured and cornered into certain areas with no way to migrate, move, breed, etc. So I look forward to listening to the committee process for this bill. I think there will be lots of really important questions asked, but at the moment the Reason Party will support the legislation. Thank you.